Why don't we just start with you guys introducing yourself? So you want to go name and obviously what you do, what your company does.
Yeah, I'm Furqan, the founder of Third Web. I've been technology founder for a long time across a variety of industries.
Yeah, I'm SY Lee. I'm the founder and CEO of Story Protocol, and we are an intellectual property focused blockchain, and really doubling down on IP tokenization and data IP licensing for AI model companies. Yeah.
Cool. I'm Fredrik, CEO and co-founder of Yoon. We're a crypto data company, mostly known for analytics stuff. Also, this week launched a developer indexing product called SIM. Cool. All right. So, Furqan, you've been building tools for a while for this space. Do you think tools or like tooling is still like a big bottleneck, or are we there where it's actually application that's like the bigger bottleneck, just finding good use cases?
Yeah, I mean, we started building developer tools in 2021, and it felt like the entire industry was immature. Like it felt like I had raw materials, basic tools to kind of work from, and a lot has changed. The chains have gotten cheaper, the tooling has built up. I feel like every part of the basic stack, from wallets to indexing to submitting transactions to RPCs, like it's all easy now. And so I don't think it's a bottleneck anymore. I think that bottleneck is gone. And people should be able to build any kind of on-chain idea super easily. And I don't think that's a limit anymore.
Good. Okay. So the apps, that's where the constraint is.
Yeah, apps are doable. We do internal hackathons all the time with our tools, and our tools are meant to make it really, really easy to build apps on chain. And within a day, you could actually put together a pretty cool application that could do things which 4 years ago might have taken you like a few weeks or a few months because you're stitching together all these kind of like things with duct tape and what feels like raw materials. Now it's like I could just buy this window off the shelf, put it in my wall, and now I got a window. That's what it feels like.
Nice. So speaking of apps, I don't know if you guys consider yourself an app per se, or like I know you have a chain, but maybe it seems like you feel like you found like a good, clear use case for why someone should put something on the blockchain. So how do you think, and obviously like you're doing IP on chain, which I think has been an idea that's been around for a while, but no one's really cracked it. So what makes you sort of feel confident about the way you're solving it, and maybe what's like the actual specific use case that you guys feel like is the right way to go to market as opposed to being like very horizontal and very general in
Yeah. First of all, IP is such a massive asset class. So it's like music, Hollywood IPs, gaming. It can be trademarks. It can be even biomedical patents. It can be data sets and data. So a very large area, surface area. But I think kind of the two things that we are really focused on, two verticals, is one is the fact that I think the previous generation of IP crypto entrepreneurs really focused on kind of NFTs, really pointed to media files. But I think with stablecoin rails and much kind of relaxed regulation around RWAs, so we are really doubling down on intellectual property tokenization and real-world asset. So the first kind of one of the big protocols, which is also probably going to announce their fundraising very soon. There's a company called Aria Protocol. They've actually tokenized everything from Blackpink, BTS songs to Justin Bieber songs. And basically, now at the moment, Blackstone to KKR to PIMCO, they invest in multi-billion-dollar music catalog. And because it's like real estate, you get yields, 7 to 9 to 10%. And also you get a huge capital gain as more and more streamers come online. From India to Africa and many developing countries world. So we allow you to invest in this kind of previously illiquid asset class with stablecoins very, very easily. And once it's actually put on chain, we make it programmable. So anyone can now use that IP as a Lego piece with an AI remixing tool to create derivatives. So that's one thing that we really been focused on. And I think because of the now big adoption of stablecoin, big adoption in RWA, this is much more kind of a near-term future, the IP RWA, IP tokenization aspect. Secondly is, I think the biggest subcategory of IP is data sets and data. And there's an insatiable need from AI model companies to get valuable data. That's the reason why Scale AI just got acquired by Meta for $15 billion. And so
technically an investment, right? But,
yeah, it's a lot of not acquired, but invested. So we found a vertical within the IP and data vertical that is actually going very, very sought after by AI model companies that we can bootstrap easily with crypto incentives and use story as an IP layer. And we're going to be sharing that in 3 to 4 weeks more, but I can just talk at a high level now.
And what do you think is, so I think this, the sort of demand for new data has definitely gone up significantly with AI, right? And sort of finding new novel data sources and types of data, and sort of seems like all of these AI model builders are like really, searching high and low for an edge in that space. How do you, though, sort of actually manage to get people to put their data on chain?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, for now, for initial data that we are sourcing, we've done it just pure kind of a contract with data providers, and we just being an IP layer to become like we program the rights around licensing these data sets for any companies to come on. But what we want to try with the applications that we're building, almost like a DeepIn app, right? Is actually incentivizing that with our tokens, almost like how Grass does it with internet kind of data, but specifically for more uncrawlable real-world data. So what uncrawlable real-world data? Let's say you holding a mic like this in like million different directions with million different types of lighting. All those things are extremely needed for humanoid robots, for instance. And so I think we've seen this with DeFi farming or even X Infinity back in the days. People are willing to kind of do certain actions for crypto incentives. So crypto can be a great labor coordination layer to actually get this data put on chain. So, and there's a really huge demand from the Teslas of the world, OpenAIs of the world, to all these kind of 11 limbs of the world to get this data. That's the bottleneck. So actually the compute is not the bottleneck. Model architecture is also commoditized. The data is now the war. So as long as we know these guys are going to pay it, I think it's pretty easier to bootstrap with our tokens on those things.
Got it. And so what specifically is the benefit of doing this on chain versus like having a traditional marketplace? Or like if I go and I don't know, pay a bunch of people to create some data, or like do.
Yeah, I think it's much because of the global financial rails, and also at the moment there's no marketplace. It's just like it's literally you get a contract, you actually order someone. Number one. So instead of that, you can create a much more frictionless, permissionless marketplace of matching supply and demand. Number one. Number two is actually a lot of these companies. This is where Story Protocol comes in. Care about the IP safety, IP clearance, and they want to see an IP license attached to the data sets. At the moment, it's really hard to know where it can be used for commercial use, non-commercial use. But that now IP license with Story's programmable IP primitive, it's actually stored in the blockchain and declared immutable way. So that's, I think, the second benefit that actually the blockchain brings, instead of and just stablecoin all these global financial rails of matching the supply and demand.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool, great. And so, speaking of crypto AI, you guys have recently launched, I think, like some AI agent that lets you build things on chain with AI, as far as I understand. And what do you think the role of AI is or what is a meaningful intersection of crypto and AI? Because I think there's like a lot of sort of call it hype around it, but what have you found to be like useful ways for AI to interact with on-chain stuff?
Yeah, I mean, AI is not an industry, right? AI is a technology that's going to underpin everything, and it will intersect with crypto and blockchains. Like that's going to happen. We spent the last like year and a half looking at this intersection, trying to figure out what's interesting and what isn't. I think there's two areas that I've identified that I feel like these are going to happen. One you're solving, which is there's going to be an infinite amount of content produced by AI. So we're now going to care where the content came from, provenance, ownership, IP. So that's I think one area where blockchains actually help solve, the AI problems that come up. And I think the second one is around AI agents. And when we think about agents, we go forward, it's very, very likely that the number one user on the internet is going to go from a human to an agent. Right now, it's one human and 0.001 agent, but that ratio is going to flip. And I think agents have some very particular properties where blockchain fits exceptionally well. The first one is payments. It's weird for an agent to use a credit card, right? My agent's going to interact with your agent. My agent pays you, and then 2 months later, I do a chargeback. How does your agent deal with it? And so agents need this programmatic, verifiable payment that can happen and they can trust kind of in a public environment, right? In a place that's trusted. And so I think payment's going to be the first one. The second one is around programmatic value. So I think tokens are a capturing of arbitrary value. You can make it worth your revenue. You can make it worth something, like art. You could make it, cash flow and yield, but it is represented in this token. And when agents are going to be working with each other and communicating with each other, your agent can't trust my database, right? So we come up with the protocol. We do some business together. Every dollar that comes in for our business, you get 50% and I get 50%. Well, if it's my database and my agent's running autonomously, it can go in and change the database record, right? If I told my agent maximize profit, it says, you know what, the ratio's wrong. Let's make it 90-10. Your agent needs to trust that that's there. And so I think these protocols will form around value creation that the two agents are interacting with and kind of working with. And that's kind of the second bucket of things that I think is going to be there. And then that kind of expands to all data, because at some point, it's not just tokens, it's not just money. A lot of other data gets exchanged through APIs and et cetera. And some part of that, the top 10%, needs to be verified and organized. And in this kind of world where humans are not in the loop, I think crypto and blockchains become the perfect kind of pair. And so we've seen a lot of that. We built a product called Nebula. It's a new LLM model specifically designed and built for blockchains. So we found that going to OpenAI or Claude and asking it about your chain, it doesn't know all the details. It doesn't know how it works. It doesn't know the protocols. It doesn't know your IP licensing tools. Yes. And so what we did is we took all of this blockchain information and trained a model so that it's really good at this. It's specific and specially built for blockchains. And we're expanding that into kind of an agent network built on top of that. And that's going to be kind of coming next.
Do you see people having any reservations in having a probabilistic system sort of control money? Like, I think I buy the argument that, like, if AI agents are going to financially interact, it makes sense for that to happen on chain because it's sort of open and easy to build and interact with, versus like a more permissioned like bank system. But do you think a lot of people will be like, hey, just like give their private keys to like an agent and let them follow some instructions that they hopefully might, or in X% of the cases will like understand and do right? Do you think there's any issue there where like people will?
There's a ton of challenging problems to solve. But like if I just look forward, technology will solve itself. And what we saw was OpenAI and the Anthropic models were about 65% good at blockchain tasks. And when we spent the first 3 months building a better model, it actually got to about 95%. And more work will get that to 99.9%. And it will get to some degree of excellence. And I think self-driving cars are a really good example. From San Francisco, there's Waymos driving around everywhere. They work. They work better than humans already. And it wasn't like that maybe 5 years ago, and the technology kind of advanced. So one is, I think the technology of accuracy will go up. And then two, today, most people don't use agents. We don't have an agent representing ourselves or working for us. So I think it'll start with human in the loop. Like, I will give it a little bit of money, $50, go run on your own, or some guardrails where, hey, you could transact for $5, or $3 or $20 a day, but you can't do more than that. And then we'll build trust. And I think a lot of people use ChatGPT. The first time you used it, you didn't really think about it doing everything for you. A year later, you're way more confident with what it can do and it can't. And I think that trust builds up from us. So both the technology arc getting better needs to happen. So that's a huge gap that I think needs to be there. And then our own trust of automated systems needs to go. And I think we've seen that in other technology bits. Again, the first time you jump in a self-driving car, it's really weird, right? If you have a Tesla and you put it on, self-driving, you're very tense. You're watching everything. The 6 months in, you're just on your phone almost chilling. You completely trust that because you've built up this reputation and trust around it. And so that takes time for humans. It's not going to happen overnight. But I do see that vision happening. I think human to agent loops are going to form first. Then we're going to have agents interact with each other. We're going to have agents do business with each other. It's going to become super common, although it's not today. And there is a ton of challenges along the way. But I see all of those as solvable. They're time, energy problems, not fundamental problems.
Yeah, that makes sense. In terms of, so that's like, okay, I give my money to the AI and it does things with it. But as far as I know, your sort of AI agent also lets you write and deploy smart contracts and stuff. And obviously, vibe coding is all the rage, and that's very sort of far out on just sort of build stuff and move quick and break things type of spirit. And then, of course, you have production grade engineering. Smart contract sort of development has, I think, been described almost as more like flight software or plain software, which is almost a different discipline entirely, because you need to be so sure about the security of a system like this. So do you see, sort of easy apps or whatever, it's okay, it's getting built by AI and agents, but do you see AIs having a big role in writing and deploying smart contracts anytime soon as well, or you think it's so many security concerns that it might take a while?
I mean, it's very scary, right? Because blockchains are immutable. You do the wrong thing, there's massive problems. We spend a lot of money in audits, in security, in testing. We spend a lot of engineering hours in doing all of that work. I kind of would argue differently that AI actually will make it much more feasible to produce more secure contracts. Because the way AI works, and I think what's been figured out now, and I think OpenAI talked about this with the O3 model, is if you give it more compute, it gets more perfect. So how much are you, right now I might put a $100,000 bug bounty on my smart contracts. Well, what if I put $100,000 of GPU compute time to attack it? And I think that will produce a better result even today than the money we put elsewhere. And it's about taking agents reverse and attacking your contracts. So yeah, it can write the code, but as I run the agent in loops over and over and over again, and I spend more money on it, basically more compute time, that's when it gets better. And again, there's a lot of guardrails you have to create, but because at the end of the day, smart contracts are programmable. And this is what we did with Nebula. We actually gave it the EVM and the ability to simulate. So when it writes a contract, it actually throws it on a local EVM node for itself, and it tests the code. It tests to make sure the inputs and outputs are good. Now, if I ran that for 5 hours, it would get significantly better. And if I just keep doing that and run it for 30 hours or 50 hours, it's going to get even better, because
They're just doing QA.
it's basically QA.
Yeah.
And a human QA might go do 30 cases.
Yeah.
The AI, I could tell it 50,000 cases. It doesn't care, right? It could just keep going.
I guess it's just a function of how much compute you want to put in.
Correct. So another question is, how secure do you want to make it? And when we think about the biggest protocols in the world, they're secured by how much money's locked up. And I think now we'll talk about how much compute time I spent, and we might want to verify that. We might want to throw that almost as IP for my protocol on chain, right? Because it's the value. Look, I spent this much time on attacking it. Here's all the cases my agent went through, and it's verified now. And I think that probably will build more trust over time.
Nice. Yeah. So it's almost basically the opposite of the premise of my question, where you actually think it's going to be more secure because you can have more sort of penetration testing and really send all the AIs out to steal all the money, and you get better systems. Yeah. that makes a lot of sense. That's a good take. Back to IP stuff. Obviously NFTs were like all the rage in 21, and I think it's in some way there's a very exciting idea around letting creators monetize better on chain, and I've always, or for a long time, thought that there's like so much cultural capital out there that is where the like financial market cap of that cultural capital is so much smaller. In some shape or form, it's just hard to sort of monetize a lot of cultural assets. So I'm curious if you see any like specific cases where you think creators can monetize better with,
I think it's all chicken and egg problem, right? Because the story's thesis that once you program the IP, it's almost like GitHub for IPs with value capture layer. So there's an IP that's registered, almost like on Git or GitHub, you're forking someone else's content over and over, right? So now there's actually terms enshrined into that IP without talking to the person or talking to the business development person or lawyer. You can fork that IP and fork that IP and fork that IP, and according to the terms of the licensing royalty sharing terms, you can share the upside together, right? And for that, we think we think it's a lot more exciting to make those kind of things happen now more than ever, because back in the days, even if you want to make a derivative of someone else's IP, the best you can do is fan fiction and fan art. But now with AI tools, and I mean, this is one thing that we're actually preparing with the big IP is you register that IP, anyone can vibe code games very quickly. Within an hour, you can have Pokemon Go level type games that are pumping out of that game. So, I mean, he said, if it gets to a right cadence within a day, you can see hundreds of games coming out from that one single IP, and that if those games start monetizing, you can actually share the upside together with the IP owner. So for us, what really the on-chain economy does is, because now all these licensing, royalty sharing, IP registration can be done on kind of programmatically with smart contracts, and now AIs give you really easy way to make high fidelity derivatives on, like how you saw Studio Ghibli remixes with OpenAI. There's so much more room to create like a monetizable high fidelity content and have kind of the on-chain economy really expand and grow the GDP of that IP. So that's something that's very exciting for us. And then, I mean, the previous generation of kind of IP on-chain was mostly NFT, but I think this cycle, what's really exciting is there's now compliance and institutional rails around bringing real-world asset and bringing, actual music rights or sports ownership rights or player rights, all these things, and make it tradable and liquid. I think it's also a very good big frontier that we'll see.
And do you think, is it important to tie these IP rights to sort of some off-chain legal rights, or do you think they should be, or like, does it make more sense for them to be sort of self-contained on-chain, and like that's where the enforcement happens around all this?
I think kind of like stablecoin, it's off-ramping, on-ramping US dollar, right? I think what we are doing is we're putting the legal rights, off-chain legal rights on-chain, and it's a backstop. It's a backstop, right? So if you have someone violating the content, there could be on-chain arbitration tools and application level moderation tools to moderate this. But at the end of the day, you do want that legal enforcement. So I think we do think the creators prefer having the last resort.
Got it. And what made you decide to build your own chain for this?
Pardon?
What made you decide to build your own chain for this?
I think first thing is that there is, I mean, IP. I mean, I think crypto has now two big use cases. One is stablecoin. The other is really big speculative financial market around assets, right? IP is a massive asset class, as you said. Culture capital is a massive asset class. It's illiquid. It's all locked up in contracts, and it's very inaccessible. And it's not just about cultural asset. It's also biomedical patents, data sets. There's so many types of IP, right? So giving that financial layer of IP was very exciting, number one. Number two is that I think blockchain and smart contracts is about cutting out the middleman, and licensing just makes so much sense to actually take out the middleman by actually making that all programmatically enforceable and just cut out all the middlemen around licensing. Especially even it became more relevant with all the AI development coming out, because you can't expect AI model companies to go one-on-one licensing each data set. Yeah, it's much more scalable with small contracts. Even with AI agents, all the outputs that AI agent is pumping out, even codes, is an IP. There needs to be an agent-to-agent protocol about exchanging this IP. That's basically licensing, right? So it's a transactional layer is basically licensing. So I think IP registration, licensing protocol, IP tokenization protocol just makes so much more sense with AI, especially on-chain.
I'll add a little bit kind of what you were asking. Why did you make your own chain, right? If we called blockchains public API servers and not something else, there's like 10 million API servers on the internet. Nobody wonders why you made another one. And so I think this is just a container that can hold verified, trusted things. And in their case, it's IP and derivatives of that, right? In other cases, it might be stablecoins. So I think a general purpose chain to do everything, that's kind of random. Like an API server that does everything in the world doesn't really make sense. An API server for my product, for a specific feature set or a specific developer tool, makes a lot of sense. And so I think we're going to see like basically chains for everything. It's more of like, what's the thing I'm doing with it? And I think more of their thing is like, it's an IP vehicle, right? Like it's a way for me to store, fork, monetize IP, and it needs to be public and trusted for these reasons. And that's kind of what I see, from an external party from you all.
For us, I think IP is so large, to be honest. So I think for now the go-to-market, now that we launched a chain, one is the trading and investing around IP through IP RWA protocols. The other is how do we make the data sets, collection, labeling to licensing extremely scalable and make it IP verified, IP safe when actually AI companies are actually licensing that for their use.
Cool, thank you. I think we'll wrap it up. Any sort of final thoughts you want to get out there?
Yeah, all I would tell everyone is you should be playing with AI agents. You should be thinking about how they work, how they operate. It's one of the biggest changes that I've seen. I've been building stuff since early internet.com era, and just kind of seeing the level of change that's happening. And crypto is going to be a big increase in TAM on the internet, and I think AI is going to be another multiplier. And so that's kind of what I would leave it with.
Yeah, I do think there's lots of exciting things at the intersection of AI and crypto. A lot of AI people think AI crypto are kind of not as serious, but I think there are specific, very niche areas that crypto can be extremely additive to AI, like the provenance attribution, like the agent-to-agent transactions, like the IP licensing and IP layer for AI. So those kind of things, I think there's so many different types of ideas that we could build upon. And actually, it's non-consensus to go into AI crypto from the AI side. So I think there's if you try to focus on areas that could really make a real impact in AI, there's so many different types of ideas that you can brew up. Yeah.
Great, cool. And if your AI agent wants some on-chain data, it can use Yoon's new indexing tool, SIM. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up. So thanks for coming, and thanks, guys.